Hi, this is Reg Athwal and welcome to our channel. For those who are new, we have different series on our channel and today we're focused on family business experts, where I get a chance to interview an entrepreneur, an expert, someone who can give us their ideas, insights, words of wisdom that can help us either at a family level or business level, or ideally both. So today I've got a real pleasure of introducing a dear friend of mine, Phil Bedford. And it's only fair that I give you a formal introduction for him. After being introduced to BNI, and he'll tell you a bit about BNI for those who don't know what that stands for. In 2007, Phil previously worked as a consultant director, training and launching new chapters. He's also a phenomenal speaker, speaks around the world on various subjects, which he's going to tell us about to grow your business. And then after that, as a result of his success there, he was handpicked to develop Ascentive as an international franchise dedicated to developing and honing the business skills. Just talking to him recently, the first time I've come across this brand, loved the name, and he's going to tell us all about what this company actually does to help entrepreneurs and startups grow their businesses. Outside of this, on a personal level, when he isn't traveling the world, in this case virtually right now, and doing speaking engagements and building this business, he happily resides in Dubai, where he indulges in his passion for food, enjoys his lovely wife Michelle's cooking, and hosting dinner parties. Love to know how many you've done in the last 3 months. But Phil is also, wait for this, a sports enthusiast, a qualified international kiteboarding organization, IKO, level 2 instructor, whatever that means. Sounds very high. And I know he is a salsa instructor. I've seen him in action, and also an underwater hockey player and coach. Wow, loads of cool stuff. Phil, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Reg, awesome to catch up with you again. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of you all these years, watching you in action as you've grown with your speaking career and now your best-selling book. And I know you're working on another one right now, and this whole new venture of Ascentive. So I'd love to get straight in and not waste any time for our viewers. When it comes to Ascentive, my understanding is that you're dealing mainly with first-generation entrepreneurs, startups. Is that correct?
Yes, correct, Reg. First generation startup entrepreneurs who are really sort of the 0 to 10 years. It's probably their first ever business. So a little bit different to yourself, where you work with first gen entrepreneurs who have kind of already made it or making it or looking at the next thing. We're right at that startup point when they're launching a business, but they really have no idea.
See, I still love that, Phil, because we deal with a lot of family businesses around the world where maybe the next gen members, the family members are in their 20s, are connected with the family. Yes, in some cases they may get a bit of money, and sometimes the father won't give them any money and say, right, you go and bootstrap your business like we did 20 years ago or 40 years ago. So when it does come to starting a business from scratch and bootstrapping it, where you don't have much money, what sort of tips could you give the viewers and some of the things that you follow in Ascentive as principles?
Well, I think the main thing is most people, when they do start a business, Reg, as you've said, I mean, let's take for a start the people that are bootstrapping it themselves. It's coming out of their own pocket. They don't necessarily have a ton of money from somebody else. Because when you got money, let's face it, you can just throw that into marketing, whatever you need. Okay? That's the easy way. When you haven't got that money, it's like, right, what am I going to do? And right from the beginning, if we start to put that money in the wrong place, i.e. the wrong marketing, buy too big an office, do the wrong things, we're lining ourselves up to fail. So really the first tip I would say to anybody is, number one, get out there and surround yourself with other entrepreneurs who started where you started. They've been through that journey and they've made the mistakes. So a little bit like Indiana Jones, right? Indiana Jones, when he's a treasure hunter, right? For anyone that doesn't watch it, and he's got his map, he knows where the treasure is, and he's going through this big cave, and he's not getting killed. He's seen all these other bodies all over the place, but he's not getting caught because he's got a treasure map that's saying, duck, don't step there, don't do that, and he gets to the gold. And that's what business owners do. If they can surround themselves with people that have been there, done that, made this mistake, learned that, you don't make the mistakes. And the trouble is, we as small businesses don't have all the time to make the mistakes that we're going to make.
I like what you said earlier, Phil, which is when you've got the money, people can definitely spend it in the wrong areas. I've seen this with large companies as well. If they make a great profit, at the end of the year, and that CEO and the leadership team wants to reinvest it all just because they've got the money, they can end up wasting it. What I love is when the family that own that company say to the leadership team, no, we're taking 100% dividend, all right? 100% of the profits we're taking, and then you've got to sell back to us, okay? If you want money back to reinvest, what you're going to do with it. And, so I think it's a good discipline. So going back, how many people have you worked with now, through your company, the incentive franchise with entrepreneurs? You've made an impact on a lot of people, haven't you?
Well, Incentive's global, right? So we're in 18 countries around the world. My remit is the GCC and South India. So this is an ongoing growth, but I mean, thousands of businesses, but me personally, hundreds just in this region. So, I mean, hence the new book, right? I see the same mistakes made again and again and again.
So the new book, I've got the title exclusive before it even comes out. I believe it's called The 7 Deadly Entrepreneurial Sins. Is that right?
It is. I'm really focused around the startup side of entrepreneurs, not necessarily where you work at. Right?
So give us some tips, Phil. Okay, from all the hundreds of entrepreneurs that you've worked with now, you've seen failure as well as success. Not all startups make it, do they? They're not all successful. So what's the commonality of success? Maybe 5 things that you could give us for people who are starting a business. What's working? What have you seen work well?
There's different dynamics because every individual is better, right? But there's one thing I recognize, and that's if the curse of an entrepreneur is often that they want to do it themselves. They won't accept help because they see it as a weakness. Right. So if you can accept the fact that you don't know everything, let's say I'm a branding expert, right? I've been doing branding my whole life. And I think that because I'm good at branding, clients are just going to walk through the door. Just because I'm a good lawyer, I started my business and clients are just going to walk through the door. And I think we need to realize when we start our own business, particularly if we're a solopreneur, a large portion of our time has to be marketing and sales.
But what happens, Phil, when people have never done that before? Maybe they've come from a corporate background, then decide to set up their own business and literally are scratching their head or living in fear, have no clue how to market themselves.
Well, and there again, it's a great question, Reg, because I think the challenge is you'll do what your old company used to do. Your knowledge of marketing is to go out and get a massive all singing and dancing website, spend a fortune on advertising and marketing, and suddenly you've run out of money, right? Because marketing has to be a continual thing. It's like brushing your teeth. You've got to keep doing it. And so hence, if you haven't got much money, normal marketing doesn't work. So you've got to look at the smart stuff. And for most of us, the smart stuff is, who do you know? Who are the people in your network? And if you look at your phone, most of us know between 250 and 1,000 people, what with LinkedIn and all this. In there is a gold mine of information, don't make mistakes, support, lift you up when you need it, and business. But most people are not accessing that because they just don't know how. So number one is to recognize the fact you don't know what you don't know. And as soon as you can, be a little bit humble and reach out to people that can help you. You've got to start investing in yourself and doing the right things.
So what you're saying is you go to your initial inner circle, that could be family, friends, and saying, hey, I'm about to start this pen business. I need some help. Yeah. Is that how it works? And then
it can be, Reg, and I think this is where the cultural element comes into this, because what I've recognized is some nationalities, particularly a lot of the groups in India, for example, their close circle will be business people. Okay, so when they reach out, they've got people that understand, people that will lend them money. But if you try that in the UK, where I grew up, your friends probably have jobs. They may love you and you spend a bit of time at the weekend, but they don't have the skills, the knowledge, or the access to really help you. So you get a lot of goodwill, but you don't get any help. So really it depends what is your network. So yes, you can reach out, but you may need to accept that from day one, you need to start finding other people to hang out with. And that's where that's the science, because then it's, who do I need to hang out with?
So my understanding with Incentive, for example, is you essentially make that happen for them. Yes, you've got, is it right to say almost like mastermind groups, mastermind communities that you're creating?
Yeah, so there's 2 core elements. So one is the mastermind aspect. And of course, there are different, I mean, the core mastermind aspect is if you take 2 brains, put them together, a third one is born. Now we have a different mastermind to most because we have a larger one, and what's core to our masterminds is the fact that every single member also has access to our core product, which is Ascentive Pro. And Ascentive Pro is basically, how do you maximize and leverage your network to make yourself an elite networker with a unified network? So what we do then is we've got a community of master networkers.
Right.
That's a completely different thing. So there's two elements to that. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's how do you build that sustainable resource that's going to help you drive a sustainable business?
Just for clarity, Phil, this is, and maybe you could just touch on it briefly, this is different to BNI, yes?
Yes.
And if maybe you could explain really briefly for people who don't know BNI and why this is clearly different.
Okay, so BNI is you have to hat off if I had one, because BNI really is the leader in what it does. So BNI is a group of business people who meet on a regular basis to give each other referrals. That's the core reason, right? Giving each other referrals. And now you will have other knock-on effects like some help and some support, but the core reason is referrals. But if we look at any business, a business needs more than just referrals. A business needs to know, well, how do I leverage word of mouth? How do I handle my HR challenges? How do I handle my accounts? I've never done this before. I don't know where I'm going. What's my vision? What's my mission? All this stuff. And
so they're complementary in a way. Both of them are complementary.
Absolutely, because if one of the things we do in Ascentive is show people where they need to spend their time to get the results they need. And that may be BNI, or it may not be BNI, it may be somewhere else. So if you're selling airplanes, it's not BNI.
Yeah.
Because they tend to be small business owners, right? If you're selling airplanes, you'd have a different network to go and play in. So that's where we would come in with it. We're more the sort of strategy.
I like that. Yeah, that's good. Thanks for the clarity for people who are thinking, what is BNI? And I've got the chance of interviewing a dear friend of ours, BJ soon,
cool.
who heads up BNI. So I'm looking forward to speaking to him, getting his opinions also soon. So let's link it to networking. This thing comes up all the time when I speak to owners and people are getting into marketing, which is around quantity versus quality and building your networks in the right way. Could you give us your wisdom there with your expertise? What is the best way of building your network? And especially when we think about social media as well and what's happening, we've got so many, I always say, I've got 100,000 plus followers, but it doesn't mean anything, does it? Because I don't know 99,000 of them. And we've never had a conversation or built a relationship. So does it really matter? Or is it about quality? Anyway, I'll stop. I need your thoughts on this.
I think it's two ways you've got to look at your network, Reg. So one is, let's imagine in your network, if you had 10 people of the caliber of Oprah, Obama, Richard Branson, right? Imagine those are your top 3 friends.
I'm interviewing them next month, Phil. They're on.
Cool, mate. Say hi. So imagine if those were your caliber of network. What would be possible? Where could they get you? Right now, but you'd have to have a relationship with these people, otherwise they wouldn't want to help you. Because imagine they're getting hit all the time with people trying to get favors. But if that was your network, what would be possible? Right? Most people don't have anything. They have no network. They leave a business, and their network is the person who sat next to them in their business, who's doing something else or accounts. They got the friends they meet at the weekend and the friends from the gym. Well, where's that going to take you? Right? So that number one is, who do you know and how well do you know them and who are they connected to? So that's the deep part of your network.
What happens though, sorry to interrupt you, Phil, I just got to come in. What happens though if they've got, you've got access to those people, they have a network, but they don't believe in your product or service at this stage? You're almost thinking, well, I'm going to wait till you're successful and then I'm going to introduce you to some people. When culturally what it's like in certain parts of Middle East and Asia where, people don't want to refer you to somebody else because their reputation is on the line.
Yeah, right. I mean, no, we've hit something completely different here. So, one is the mechanism of how you utilize your network, and the other one is, should they refer you, right? So again, this is not a one answer solution. It could, and it really comes down to the individual you're looking to refer. My experience is most people don't get referred because they're surrounded by the wrong people. Most people because everybody's like, what's in it for me, right?
That's right. Yeah.
If I refer you, what's in it for me? Yeah. Now, if you're around the right people, they'll do it because they know, like, and trust you, and you just need to prove you have a credible product. Other people won't refer you unless you bung them 100,000 dirhams. Right? So it's who is the cat? There's other people, Reg. I come from the UK, and in the UK, some people, if you offer them a referral fee, they would never refer you because they'd be highly insulted.
Mm.
So really it comes down to what's the individual's motivation, how well they know you, and what are their internal drivers.
Mm. Is it okay if to offer, because we've been through this with our company recently, is it okay to, there could be a program running or, an offering of a further solution in the future, but you could do a barter. Is that professional? So you may not be giving somebody money, but if they did refer you and they become a client, maybe in exchange you'll give them something else of value.
Yeah, and I think, well, barter's the original way of doing business, right? Going way back when, I'll give you a chicken, you'll give me a new sword. So that's the original way. That's before money,
Chicken,
right?
yeah, I like that. Chicken and sword, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, may use one on the other one, but and even when you look at business, it wasn't marketing only came around in the 50s. So before that, what happened? Everything was word of mouth. Everything was reputation. There wasn't advertising and TV. There wasn't. So a lot of these things are very, very natural to us, Reg. People have just forgotten.
Yeah.
And there are things where people do have professional referral fees, and it's part of business. All I would say is always be referring people because you know they're good at what they do, not because you get money. Because if you're doing it only for money, what happens if it goes wrong?
But what I'm hearing from you, Phil, is that Seth Godin talks about this, Malcolm Gladwell, a couple of books, but in a way you're reconfirming that there are two sets of people. So there will be people who will do it for free. You have that trusty relation. Maybe for them, there's a bit of significance involved, yeah? Or a bit of ego, makes them feel good or look good. But then you've got the other person who purely wants to get paid.
Yeah. And so your goal is to surround yourself with the people that you want, right? See, here's the thing. Most people, their networks choose them. Your job is to choose your network. So here's a great one for you guys. You guys in the room listening to this now, imagine now for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, there's an empty room. Now, this is a concept generated by a guy called Stuart Emery. It's called Who's in Your Room, right? So imagine there's this empty room. And I suppose this really kicks into you, Reg, with what you do with your guys as well. This empty room, you're in it. Mm-hmm. And in that room is the rest of your life. What you want for your family, your business, yourself, your health, your retirement, everything that's possible is in that room. But that room has a one-way door. Now, anyone you let in that room is now enhancing your life or detracting from your life. And that's the case. Everybody we're surrounded by either increases our life or detracts from it. Am I right? Everybody, there's no in between.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the question is, with this one-way door, who would you have in your room?
That's good, yeah. You have to be very selective.
Who exactly, right? But here's the kicker. You said there's two kinds of people. Whose room are you in? Whose life are you contributing to? And if we approach this with this mindset of how do we help other people, and they're looking there to help us, and we're all highly connected and highly driven and vision, what's possible?
That's really good. I love it. That's powerful. I know we got limited time. There's a whole bunch of questions I want to ask you about your book and Kiss the Rebel. As we were researching Kiss the Rebel, on Google, we found all sorts of images that came up of kissing the rebel. It was nothing to do with your book, but you're going to have to Google yourself the name. Some interesting pictures come up. So could you give us a few tips, Phil, from your book? And hopefully, people can pick it up from Amazon or a local bookshop somewhere and read it fully. But you got some really good things in there around. One thing you've got in your book is that you say clients don't necessarily make the best people to refer business to. They're not best referrals. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the biggest delusions around getting referrals. And if you don't believe me, what I recommend you to do is actually get a list of all your clients. And assuming you've done a good job, of course. So get a list of all your clients and actually look at how many of them have referred you. And you'll be shocked. You probably have a great relationship, you've done a great job, and they've never referred you. So there's actually an HBR study, I cover it in the book, in the Kiss the Rebel, that there's an HBR study about this with the statistics. And the statistics say that if you ask 100 people who you've done a good job for referrals, if you ask 100%, then only between 18 and 11% will actually convert into business. Most of us aren't asking. So what's the reality of this? Now, the reason people think it's their best referral source is because that's probably the only place they're getting referrals from. So what if we can start to build a network of the people with the right connections to the right people, and then we can motivate and target and train them to go out and get this?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you can start to generate more proactive referrals. And the trouble is with referrals from clients is it's reactive. You never know if it's going to come.
Mm.
And if 70 to 100%.
So one of the things you're saying there, what I'm hearing, Phil, is, well, to step it up, first of all, with your existing clients, assuming you've delighted them, okay,
Mm-hmm.
assuming you've delighted them, you've done your job and you've served them well with your product or your service, your solution, you first of all have to ask, and a lot of people don't ask.
100% ask.
So if that doesn't work now, and they go, well, sorry, I've got no referrals for you, I've got no one to refer you to, they're either not satisfied or they're lying, then you're saying you go elsewhere to build your network now.
Yeah. And you go to people. See, here's the dynamic, Reg. Let's just, in a very, very simple way, let's say you had a mortgage broker and a real estate agent. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, most people that buy a house need a mortgage. Most people that give a mortgage to someone, the people then need a house. So if you had these two individuals, couldn't they be referring each other, every single client that comes along?
So is that another way of looking at, like you call it, collaboration? Yeah, it's collaborative networking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might want to look at the wedding mafia, for example, or what we call the wedding mafia. So, who's the client in a wedding? It's the bride, right? Mm. Even though the guy may be the one paying for it. I mean, these days it might be the lady, but whoever's paying for it, really the client's the lady. And so who does the bride give her money to? Well, photographer, wedding planner, dress, venue, band, right? All these people take money from the bride. So what if they had a community of people that only referred each other? Whoever picks up the client first turns around and says, well, look, don't waste your time running around. I've got this great group of people that will guarantee you the best wedding ever. And what if every one of those 10 or 15 people was doing that?
So, it sounds simple, but for people who don't understand how to do that, it can also sound quite scary of how you build that ecosystem around you.
Absolutely. Because
I suppose this is where, again, your business incentive comes in, doesn't it? Because you're creating that for them.
Yeah, we do a step by step. This is how you do it. Because if you don't know who the people are, we'll show you find them. Then we'll show you how to train them, how to motivate them, and how to make it happen. And this is the thing, Reg. Mm-hmm. Building your business by networking and referral is a science. And unfortunately, most people have no idea of the potential, because as far as their knowledge is of networking, it's walking into a venue with a business card, handing it out, and trying to close a deal. That is not networking. That's handing out a business card.
Got it. So tell us, how does this all link with your story about the Roman baths?
So, I was actually in Bath in the UK. And of course, Bath got its name because it was a Roman bath. And if you think about, one of the challenges with networking groups is most people don't want to network because they're scared of it. They don't like it, or it's not worked. Mm. And the main reason is most people are not networking. What they're doing is handing out business cards. Mm-hmm. Your network is and you and I are networking now, Reg, right? We're deepening a relationship and learning more about each other. And we all do that as human beings. And a network is anywhere where you're around a group of people that have a common theme or a common bond and meet on a regular basis. Right? So that could be your book club, your rugby club, your business network. It could be a Roman bath. So all these people in Rome were meeting in this bath. They do that regularly. And of course, what are they going to talk about? Business. They're going to deepen each other's relationships. But because they keep going back there, they build relationships. And networking is not turn up at an event once and not go back. That is not networking. So
the secret to networking is to be half naked. Is that what you're saying?
Could well be, mate. Might get in trouble in this part of the world, but whatever works for you, right?
Oh, brilliant. So on that note, tell us about, the personal side. How do you balance this with some of the things I mentioned in the introduction with kiting and salsa dancing and all sorts of other things? How are you balancing all this?
But you know what, it's quite interesting because I was doing this before I really understood what we do at Ascentive. I was always the top salesperson in all the businesses I worked in. And I didn't realize, most of these businesses did not spend money on marketing and advertising, right? And yet I was still generating the biggest business. And I was scared stiff of sales and cold calling. Right? And yet I was the top salesperson, scared stiff of sales and network. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. And what I realized was I was very active in my social life.
Hmm.
I had a salsa group and I taught salsa. I build sports and get involved. I do. So because I was social, all these opportunities were coming from my external network. And even today, I'm in different business networking groups. Even today, I got some of my biggest opportunities in my business. So interviewed by Forbes, been on BBC World, Entrepreneurial.com, blah, blah, blah. All of these things came, most of them, through this salsa network,
Wow.
my friends in salsa, or from my other social events. And yet, what are people doing? If they want to build a business, they always go for the business group this or the business group that. And while they're good, they may be missing out on the other stuff.
Well, there's something there. I think you're onto something there, which is, it seems like, don't go down the obvious route. It's almost like there's other networks where you're not looking to sell to those people, but they know what you do. Yeah. But those people are the ones that end up referring you to the clients that you're looking for.
Yeah, you're right. And it could be the business one. It's just how, you see, here's the thing, Reg. If I said to everyone in this show, what's the best car in the world? And I know your clients, your first gen sort of 15 million plus are quite wealthy. So if I said, what's the best car in the world? You might be thinking Ferrari, Bugatti, whatever, right? But what I didn't tell you is I want to go desert driving.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And suddenly it's not. And unfortunately, this is the way people choose their networks.
Yeah. Well, the best car in the world is always your first car, isn't it? Mine was a Honda Civic in the UK. And always always remember the blue Honda Civic.
In the UK, it's any car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the good old days. But I get what you're saying, because so we haven't asked the right question, have we?
You got to go where it solves the result you need it to solve. So whether it's getting clients, it's solving information, it's support, you need to know what you want the network to do and then find the right network. And my experience is most people are networking in the wrong place and using the wrong skills. And that's why it doesn't work.
Love it. Phil, finally, your other brand as a speaker, the Rebel Network, and then with the book, Kiss the Rebel. What is this whole Rebel thing about?
So actually a friend of ours, Dave Crane, helped me with that one. So Dave was a client of ours a number of years ago, and he was sitting in the program. And what we were trying to do was find 3 words that described the individual. What was your brand? And we were looking at all kinds of different words. And he just turned around to me one day. He goes, "Phil, you're like the Rebel Networker, mate." And the whole point was because I wear the suit and, I teach business, but at the same time, I'm jumping off, I'm doing kite surfing, I'm doing salsa. Right. And so it was kind of networking, but done in a different way. And of course, the word Rebel's got a bit of a hook to it. And it just kind of stuck, mate. And thanks, Dave.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. So to wrap up, Phil, just briefly, we'll make sure all the details for Ascentif are in the description area. For those of you, it's not just in the UAE, but I believe it's a global company. So you could go to their global website and hopefully link up with various chapters and groups around the world. For those of you directly in the GCC, make sure you connect with Phil directly. We'll make sure his LinkedIn details also in the description. But to conclude, Phil, I always like to squeeze out a couple of more tips from our guests. What are the gems? You talked about things you know and the things you don't know. What are the things you absolutely know? These are 1 or 2 things. If you do this, your startup will be successful outside of the things we've already discussed.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, hit me on this one. I think really, and oddly enough, the things we have discussed are probably the most immediate to me, Reg. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the biggest things is you've got to realize that you've got to invest in other people's lives. Because if you want people to help you when it's an emergency, if you haven't invested them, they're going to go, "Reg, who?"
Right.
Yeah. So here's the thing, build the roof before it rains. You never know when you're going to need someone's help or you're going to need this resource or read that. And if you've never invested in somebody, why should they ever help you? If their answer is Phil who or Reg who, or, well, you never did anything for me, they're never going to turn up. So keep investing and keep finding ways to help people. And oddly enough, that's why a lot of our franchisees are actually successful entrepreneurs, because they get to a point where they want to come and give back. So find ways to give back. Find ways to stay relative.
Is this linked to, sorry, before you hit the second one, is that then linked to, some people refer to as relationship capital, or you're making emotional deposit in the ATM machine, if that makes sense. Is that essentially what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's almost like a referral bank, right? If I do enough stuff for you to help you, I mean, let's think, right? If I buy you a cup of coffee, deep down, what do you want to do?
Buy your coffee
Buy me
back.
a coffee back, right?
Yeah.
Because as human beings, we need to find balance. Now, if we take that innate human element and start helping each other in business, doing things for each other, giving them a lift to the airport, well, when I ask for help, you're going to be like, oh, thank goodness you asked me, man, because I need to find balance inside myself.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
And then there was the second one. You were going to, I interrupted you, but there was going to be one other one. Yeah.
That's all good, man. The other one would be to recognize the power of online networking as well as offline. And it shouldn't be an either or. It should be both. Unfortunately, most people are not networking online. What they're doing is marketing and selling online. That is completely different to networking online. So there's different ways. Yeah. So let me give you an example.
Please. Yeah. Sounds very interesting.
I was working with a social media company who were experts at marketing for their clients online, right? Doing an advert, doing all the links, all this stuff. And they're sending the articles and all this. But the owner of the company wasn't on social media himself, right? And I was on there and I saw somebody in a group, it was a British group, and somebody said, does anyone have a good social media agency they could connect me to? So what I did was tag this guy and say, well, these guys are pretty awesome, But guess what happened? They completely missed the opportunity because he wasn't on there himself. He was only using social media to market. He wasn't watching what his network were doing. And this is the possibility that networking online is missed by many.
I think you're absolutely bang on, Phil, because there's so many people who post things and you see the brand, highly visible in social media, but then whatever they're talking about, if you want to engage with them, or you send them a direct message or say, hey, I really enjoyed that article, you get no response back. It's
because they're paying somebody else to do it.
It's crazy. I could start ranting now with you, Phil, but it's the one thing that really annoys me is when people want something from you, they expect for you to get back to them immediately. But when you reach out to them, whether it's to ask them a question or congratulate them with something or try catch up, that person has no time and they don't bother even getting back to you. Not even say, hey, I'm busy right now, but let's see if we can talk again next month. Tells you a lot about how people are conducting business, doesn't it?
Well, here's a funny story for you. So I decided in lockdown, one of the things I could do was get some new suits, right? And I thought, well, this is going to be good because tailors are going to be short of money, so I'll get a good deal, right? So I know 3 tailors. I contacted 3 tailors and I said, have you got any deals? And they're like, yeah, we've got great deals. So I got these great deals. Out of the 3 tailors, 1 contacted me after I had my initial contact. I said, call me back. Only 1 out of 3 contacted me. Why? Too disorganized, didn't calendarize the call. So now 2 of them have lost business, and yet they're desperate for business because they're disorganized. Amazing, right?
Yeah, and I think on that note, there's another dear friend of mine, Jeff Ram, who I interviewed on one of our shows, who talks about the welcome back strategy. So right now, anyone who's had existing clients, existing customers, how many of them have you actually called to say, hey, we want to welcome you back? And, if I look at my phone, it's shocking how many people, I've given my money to for products and services, and probably only 1 or 2 out of hundreds that I may have given my money to over the years where I'm on their database somewhere where they haven't called. It's shocking.
It is. We actually, I've developed an app called the Rebel Networker app, and it's basically a relationship building app. Mm-hmm. And one of the activities, free, it's on iTunes at the moment, it's going to be on Android shortly. And
just to confirm that again, I'll make sure it's in the description. It's the Rebel Networker app.
Rebel Networker app, yeah. So it's on iTunes. We'll be back on Android shortly. Mm-hmm. And there's activities to help you build your network so people don't forget about you. And one of the things is similar to what you're saying. It's called the How Are You phone call. And all you do is ring up people and say, hey, how are you? And you don't sell at them. You just say, how are you? And you'd be amazed what happens from a simple how are you phone call.
Yeah. Well, I've got a friend in Germany. He calls it the cuddle call.
I like that.
It's cool, isn't it? Martin Limbeck. I've got to quote him. So Martin says, you got 2 types of people you're going to be calling every day. He goes, his daily discipline. He goes, I've got to call 3 people, which is brand new for sales. Okay, as a proper presentation, pitch, whatever. But then there's 3 people I've got to call just for a cuddle. And that's his discipline every day. And he generates so much business just following that every single day. It's amazing.
It'd be interesting to know what the percentage is from a cuddle call and from a sales call. Right?
I'll connect you with him and you can do your own research, Phil. It should be interesting. So I really appreciate your time, Phil. Keep doing your great work, impacting so many people's lives, all these people building startups. And I think, you probably confirmed this, but during the COVID-19 situation and the pandemic, I would assume, tell me if I'm right or wrong, more and more people are now starting to start businesses, wanting to become entrepreneurs.
It's amazing, Reg. Yeah, I think you'll recognize this from your experience as well. When people lose their jobs, it's often the catalyst to do what they'd always thought of doing, which was starting their own business.
The push that they needed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the push they needed. Now, of course, they need to know the journey, which is what they don't do. So they have to decide they want to do this. But of course, once they do, they realize that, oh my gosh, I'm alone. I've never run a business. I'm not sure how the heck do I get clients? I've got little money. That is perfect for what we do. Okay. But all I would say to anyone is if you are going to do this, discover what the journey is and how much dedication you need. Because a year down the line or 2 years down the line, if someone offers you a job, you need to have the fortitude to stay on that business because it'll be too tempting to go back and get a job. So if you're going to do it, know you want to do it. And if you do, we'll help you.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to referring lots of people to you, Phil, because now, you've even though we've known each other for years, you've now upgraded my mind on what you're doing and how you're helping people. I think there's many people out there that need this service. I wish I had a great mastermind community in my early years of being an entrepreneur. It was lonely. Trying to work it all out on your own, it's difficult. And that resulted in me failing by the time I was 21. Lost everything with my first venture because I didn't have that support structure. So thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. We'll hopefully do another episode in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Soon. Yeah, thank you, Phil.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for your time. See you, everyone.